let's think the first thing now, because of that, I got thrown out of board docs. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, everybody. Hold on. Trying to flip between the two. Join the meeting. And the first thing is any Board of Education comments.
I have a comment.
Yes.
It's in regards to that tree that's on the drive as you go up on the right hand side. Is Tom Fargo on this call with us? No.
He doesn't appear to be right now.
Okay, well.
So we can bring it back up when he joins or Cecil joins, because
Okay.
Cecil was working on it.
Yeah, Colonel
Okay.
Morrison had this on his radar.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, very good. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And with
Yep,
my
no,
luck,
Colonel Morrison was on it.
yeah, with my luck, it's going to be when I drive underneath it.
Well, we're not allowed up there right now unless
Yeah.
we're going for a meeting, so you're safe until January 19th.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So next we will go on to Dr. Sheboy.
So I just have a couple things. This week I was able to attend a few seminars or webinars. One was on institutional racism. I found it to be, quite fascinating. It was sponsored by NISPA. I imagine a couple people out here were involved in it, but it was a very good one, and it pointed us to the website, My Brother's Keeper. And while we don't qualify for My Brother Keeper funding, it doesn't mean we can't, tap into some of the resources and things that are on the My Brother Keeper website. So we're going to keep that on the radar, especially in the context of the DEC. Andrea, myself, Dr. Naziri, Colonel Yankovic, Debbie Brand, we all got to take part in some wonderful AP research project proposals. And I don't know if Andrea wants to share when she's giving her report, but our students are so smart and so engaged in this, this program and the research, and really are looking at doing, master's level type research. And it's just an incredible thing that Marie Michaud and Nicole Glennon are doing. And Andrea, I don't know if you want to say anything now or when you have your report. So.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. The concepts that they're delving into and the maturity with which they're approaching these issues is really extraordinary. Just so proud of the work that they're doing, and of the work that Marie Michaud and Nicole Glennon are doing with leading this class. It's really extraordinary, really extraordinary.
Yeah, they're working really hard to emulate, an institutional review board, not only for projects, but also for, research to make sure that is ethical. And it's just, they've done a real nice job putting that together. We don't really have an update on the reopening or the reopening, but I just want to let everybody know that we are continuing to work with the Orange County Department of Health to decipher, that's a good word, the ever-changing sea of regulations related to COVID from both the state level, the CDC level. It changes regularly. Denise and Andrea, I'm sure they'll say something about this, but they sat in on a meeting with Dr. Gelman this week to just talk about some of the zones and testing, and there's not a lot of answers. There's a lot of questions. So we're still looking at that. This week I have, actually next weekend this week, as the board will remember, I sit on a career advisory council for Mount St. Mary's College, and that will meet for the first time this fall. Tomorrow virtually, and then next week I serve on the education committee for the New York State Institute of Technology, and we'll have a meeting next week to just look at how well they're serving, or they think they're serving, their prospective teacher candidates. So hopefully I'll be able to present something on that for the board, or at least provide some information on that from the board coming forward. So that's the end of what I have today.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrea?
So the technology leadership team attended the NICEGATE annual conference virtually last week. A lot of great ideas just in terms of continuing to support what we're doing in all learning environments, whether we're together, remote, hybrid. And so they are going to be creating trailers to share with their colleagues on what they learned and quick uses for one strategy or one tool that they found at the conference. And then we'll be building professional development around that starting in January. So that's one thing we have going on. Just trying to, stay abreast of all the changing regulations. As Dr. Shiboy said, Denise and I sat on the call yesterday with Dr. Gelman, and she has remained firm regarding her letter, and that's what's best practice, and that, there's the things may change, basically was the gist of the meeting. But it was certainly an interesting meeting. Stephanie and Keith are busy continuing to troubleshoot as needed for our teachers and our students and our families. Kristen Magyar continues to be an outstanding resource to the whole learning community. And we are approaching the mid-year point, and it's hard to believe that we're about 6 weeks away from that, and we're making it work. So just really great things happening.
Thank you very much. Denise?
How is everybody this evening? As you recall, the ESSA reporting is due on December 31st this year, and that is the actual expenditures for 2019-20. So Nicole has been working very hard over the past month getting the data ready, and we actually submitted it on Tuesday, and then we had to go in this afternoon and make an adjustment, but our ESSA reporting has been filed for the 19-20 school year. So we're happy that's behind us. And we use Forecast 5 to assist with us. And Nicole says that they have it so mainstreamed, even though when we have to do the transparency reporting, it just aids us. And it's money that's well spent, because it's very difficult to follow the ins and outs of how the state wants to see our data, even though we report it through our state aid forms in August. So that's done. So I'm happy about that. And as I stated, budgeting has begun. Our worksheets are due back to the business office from the principals and the directors next Friday already. We're building 2 different budgets this year, and so that we could see where we're going come January. So that would be very interesting, because the state aid output reports came in today. They've been released. And next Wednesday, Nicole and I will be listening to a webinar with State Aid Planning to go over them and see if they give us any more insight on what's going to happen between now and January, February, when the executive order comes out for 21-22 budget. So the last thing I need to discuss with the board this evening is a little, not too lengthy, but beginning of November, I started to file paperwork with the child nutrition for the summer food service program. It's called SFSP. We were all advised to do this because of the pandemic, and it gives us more of a leeway of getting food to our students. So originally, when I started this back in the beginning of November, I filed it just for the Highland Falls Intermediate School, because that's where the food was going out of when the grab-and-go meals. So it gets complicated, because once we start school in November, then we're feeding kids out of all 3 buildings. So I'm still trying to get this done. But we've been approved for it. We're adding 2 more schools. But on top of this, we need to amend the contract with Aramark for this school year only, per the SP guidelines. So what that means is that Aramark right now, if you remember into the contract, we were I'm sorry, I have my paperwork all over. We were being charged $3.16 per meal. It's going to go to $4.18 per meal. That's so that not just, Aramark is going to have a loss this year no matter what. If we don't do this, not only, the most important is that we're doing this for our students, but with Aramark, they're going to show about $50,000 loss, and they will not be able to service us if we don't move forward and do the increase in the meals. And then we will also have an increase in our profit for this year because we may not have a profit at all. That's not the part I'm worried about. The part I'm worried about is when I'm asking for the board to approve the contract, and I'm hoping to have it in the next board meeting. I understand it's a presentation, but time is of the essence. It's just that this program will allow us to feed our students not only Monday through Friday, but we can send out meals on Friday for Saturday and Sunday also. So it's a benefit to our students. And this all sunsets on June 30th of 2021. So that about sums it up. I've been on 3 different phone calls with the state today just to keep everything moving forward so I can finish getting our schools loaded up so I can ask for our reimbursements for September and October. So I don't know if anybody has questions, but if you want to think about it and shoot me emails, and as I keep moving forward before the next meeting, I can, I'll send out an email to let you know where we're at.
So Denise, are you saying that the price that the students are going to pay when they start paying again? No.
No. The students are not paying.
Price that's in the contract so we can put in to get the reimbursables for this new food program that goes till June 2021.
Correct, June 25, 2021, correct. So all it is, instead of Aramark billing us $3.60 per student, they're going to bill us $4.18 per student.
That's fine. That's
right, and right. So, but all the students are not paying a dime, and this is just giving us more leverage to actually get to the students to feed them even over the weekend, which I think is amazing.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Gabe does.
Okay.
There we go. About $1 increase, and about how many meals? Approximately an idea in a month.
Actually, for the month of November, we saw an uptick of 2,000 meals. So it's varying. I mean, so if you want to hold on 2 seconds, let me open up my spreadsheet.
I just want a rough number. I don't need an exact number.
Well, that's what's so hard because I actually had it up, so it won't take me but a minute.
Sure. And that's reimbursed to us by the state?
Yes, we get reimbursed by the state at a higher dollar amount. So in the month of September, we served 1,992 meals. And then, September was 1,804. October was 1,994. And just so you know, in November, we did 4,077. So, so we did reach out. So I need to work with Andrew so we can start getting those text messages out on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
Any idea what would drive a double,
how can you represent
an increase?
Who you're representing to?
It's all the students, any child 18 and younger. That's how the school, the summer food service program, we can open it up from any child 18 years and younger. So that could even mean a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old.
And Gabe, probably an answer to your question, what could account for that increase from November is we were in person. So, I mean, as kids are in the building, we gave more meals because they were there. That's why, again, some of our kids, and we recognize this, which is why the work that Kathy and Denise and Aaron in the community are doing is imperative. That we have kids who, if we aren't feeding them, they aren't eating. So
yeah, just the first 2 days of school was 563 meals, and on Monday and Tuesday was 436.
That's great.
Can you hear me, Denise?
Yes, I can, Ned.
Thank you. Who are we representing to that we're paying $4 and whatever additional?
It's Aramark because they're our food service management company. So right now, if we're not going to move forward with this, I say we need to move forward with the program, but right now they're billing us $3.16 per meal. But with the summer food service program, it's going to go $4.18, but we'll be reimbursed by the state.
They're perfectly proper to represent we're paying 418, even though we're not
Absolutely.
paying 418.
Yes, we're going to pay $4.18, but then we get the money back when we get reimbursed from the state. And we're going to be reaching the students 7 days a week instead of 5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Denise. So I see Tom has joined. So Tom, Gus had a question about the tree coming up that I know you were working with Colonel Marson on. Do we have any updates on that?
I don't know what tree or Colonel Marson.
I said the
Sorry.
tree coming up to the high school that that's about ready to fall. I know Colonel Morrison was working on it because it's on West Point property, but it has been brought up by Gus at previous meetings.
Well, I'll have to look into it, ma'am. I don't know what
All
you're
right,
talking about
Frank,
now.
did you
Yes.
already talk? Colonel Morrison is working on it, correct?
Yeah, I put it on Colonel Marston's radar a couple times. Yep.
Okay, hold on. Did Colonel Morrison join yet?
No.
Okay. Okay, when we hear from him, I'm sure he'll join. We'll ask him. All right, thanks. Never mind, Tom. Okay, next was, who wants to go first? Go ahead, Robin, thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'll start with, as Dr. Shiboy and Dr. Teodor mentioned in their reports, that the students in the AP research class have been presenting their formal research proposals to a committee of teachers, administrators, and guests during this past week. They are the first cohort of students to go through this process and have some very interesting ideas for their research. The students have been well organized, thoughtful in their feedback, and receptive to the critiques. We have students who are applying to participate in the HOBie leadership program, and they went through 2 rounds of interviews already, and the finalists will be chosen by next week. The music department is working very hard to put together a virtual holiday concert. It's been very challenging given the limitations posed by technology, but they are very determined to have a show before winter break. So we look forward to seeing that. And we're coming upon the mid-quarter point for the second quarter already, and it ends on tomorrow, December 4th. The grades will be released to families by the end of next week. And that's all I've got.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the concert.
Yes, me too.
Sure, we all are. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike?
All right. Good evening, everybody. So just a couple things to reiterate. Attendance at HFIS still continues to hold strong at 94%. Again, we definitely think a lot of that has to do with our morning meetings, the Positivity Project, and getting kids excited to start each and every day. I would like to say it's because I do a screencastify each morning and talk to them, but I doubt that's what it is unless I'm making fun of myself or wearing some silly Olaf costume, which I haven't done in a while. So maybe for the holidays, I will pull one out for them. We actually also sent out a student survey to all students in 3-8. We varied the questions for 3-5 and for 6-8, but we really wanted to get a feel for how are they doing. And we thought this was a good time to do that since we had just transitioned back to a virtual learning. And a lot of the questions were based around, academics, any classes they were struggling in. Why do they think they're struggling? What have been some of the positives from this year? And just trying to gauge how they think they are doing and what we can do as a building to better support them. So we got about 245 responses right now, and we're just combing through that data to see what they had to say and make an action plan for that. So myself, Mrs. Maldonado, and the guidance team will be working on that for the next week or so, and we'll also be sending one out to our faculty and staff also checking in on them. And finally, last but not least, we'll be sending one out to our families as well, just to gauge the pulse of our family, both students, staff, and parents. We also
I think that's a
adopt a
great
child.
idea. That's
I can't
absolutely
take-
fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wish I could take all the credit. I know the high school did something similar with their students, so I have to give credit to where credit's due. I thought it was a great idea, so I stole it or borrowed
Thank
it.
you. Borrow, share,
so
share.
Robin and Debbie, they did a fantastic job, and I thought that was a great way to segue for us as well.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
Adopt a Child is in full swing. Mrs. Nichols and Mrs. Hannigan are amazing at what they do in general, but this puts a cherry on top of everything they do, reaching out to families, getting all the information out to staff and communities. If you want to adopt a child, as always, we're full. Every child is going to get something special to make their holidays a little bit better. And again, Trisha and Caitlin just do an amazing job. They're actually going to be in on Monday and Tuesday of next week, sorting all of the gifts to get ready to distribute to families right around the holidays. It really is something that I know doesn't go unnoticed, but they do deserve a lot of that credit because they put a lot of work and effort into that. So that's all we have at HFIS.
Okay, and can I go back to you, Rob, and not to put you on the spot, but I've been seeing a lot of comments and stuff on Facebook about the senior sprinkles. I just want to make sure again that when we do things, we include everybody. So from what I've been seeing, there's 35 to 40 seniors right now that don't have anybody. Like I just want to remind anyone who does things like this, like they're doing the great thing about adopting families, their families, just to make a little help families that might need a little help with Christmas or the holidays. We do it at Thanksgiving time too when we can with food and help them. The senior sprinkle or whatever it is, I think the PTSD is heading it off. We have to make sure we include everybody. So
Yes.
I ask you to request to them that they find a way that every senior that wants to be included is included.
Absolutely. We're in contact with PTSC with,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And then Rachel?
Hi, everyone. So it is what I'm happy to say as business as usual at FMES. The teachers are doing an amazing job of making the transition from hybrid back into virtual as smooth and seamless as possible for the students. In fact, today I was on quite a few meets, and there were some students as early as kindergarten asking if they could present their screens.
Pardon me, Rachel, could you speak a little louder?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There were students in kindergarten that were saying things like, I need to present my screen so I could show you what I'm working on, which was really, really sweet to see. And just overall beautiful, because that's really what our goal was, is to make the learning vivid and engaging for the students. So I was very, very proud of that. So if any of you have any opportunity to see your kids online, it's really, 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 really very special. We are also doing pretty well with attendance. We are right there with you, Mike, at 94%, which I'm pretty proud of, considering, there are a lot of outsiders, and our kids are showing up and making it their business to be there for the learning. And I really am thankful for their parents, because they are incredibly supportive in following the schedules and making sure that the students have all the materials, and our teachers are communicating that pretty effectively. So thank you to all the parents out there that are listening. I know it's not easy. I know it's challenging, but we really very much appreciate your partnership in this, because we couldn't do this on our own. And we are also trying to find creative ways to continue with some of our winter traditions, like March of the Wooden Soldiers. So stay tuned. There'll be more information coming, and we have some ideas in our back pocket. So we just need a little bit more time to put that all together, and we'll be able to share all the details with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom?
Good evening. How we doing? So
Hi.
as the board was aware, we had a brownout at Fort Montgomery Elementary School on Monday. It ended up causing minimal damage. We burned up a recirculating pump on the boiler system. O&R came the next day. They replaced the transformer that burned out. We got a hold of a motor and replaced it in-house, so we didn't have to contract that out or anything. And the total repair to us was $149. That's all we paid for that. So that was a good thing. And as you know, we furloughed a couple of my people. So the other guys are stepping up. The principals are doing an awesome job of minimizing how much staff they have coming in the building and where the amount of spaces they're using. That kind of eases the burden on us a little bit, that when they leave, to clean and disinfect all those areas, with those spaces being minimized, they don't have to do as much. And that's about all.
Thank you. Thank you. Beth?
Good evening, everybody. So Mike, I do start my day with your morning announcements, and then I read Rachel's Google Classroom and answer her question, or just read other people's responses. Sometimes I don't answer. This week we've been working on the budget. It's Yvonne's first time going through it, so we kind of copied it and scribbled all over it, and now she's typing it up in the form for Denise. So hopefully that that'll be done by Monday, so that'll be good. We already started working on our annual review schedules. Of course, I mentioned it to Nicole Glennon, and so she was up and running, and we've been working on that this week. So we're going to do our meetings a little bit earlier, starting in the beginning of January, because we have several staff members who going out on leave the end of January. So we're going to start in the beginning of January and get our meetings done right away. We had some CSE meetings this week for a couple of program reviews for some kids who didn't fare as well for the first quarter and just want to see what's going on, see if there's any more support we can offer, and some of our transfer students we had meetings on as well. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go into committee reports, the policy committee.
Hey, Ann. Can I just circle back real quick? The senior
Sorry, of course.
I can give an update on the senior sprinkle. We're only down to about 10 families. 10 seniors that need to be adopted. So they're doing one last push, and they are hoping to have that done ASAP. But only 10 seniors are left.
Yesterday there were 40. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. But they updated it a little while ago, and they were only down to about 10.
And we just need to make sure we include everybody. That's all I want to say. Okay. Anybody else?
What does the word sprinkles mean?
It just means that a parent or a person that works in the district takes on a senior and either sends them cards or a gift or something to make their senior year a little brighter.
Thank you.
Sprinkle with kindness.
Kindness, yeah. Okay. Policy committee?
So we didn't meet this week, but we are about 99% ready to send it to Erie One BOCES. There's a policy tonight that the board has for review. And once we have this, then we're just going to package everything up, send it to Erie One BOCES, and get our third revision back. That should be a much quicker review. And I'm looking forward to having that task finally done. Our policies will, once we're done with this, be electronic, they'll be searchable, they'll be part of board docs. So really looking forward to that automation, as opposed to looking through PDFs that are on the website in a not so searchable format. I don't know if Faith or Aaron or Gabe have anything more on that, but we're moving right along.
Yeah, no, I don't really have anything more to add other than that it was a very smooth process. We positioned ourselves pretty well in the work that we had done last year. So it went very smoothly, but I'm also glad we've reached the end of it at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Wellness, health, and safety?
There's been no meeting.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to say just in case. Audit committee, we don't have anything new on that, right? Okay.
Correct.
Next, the Facilities Committee. There was a meeting on the Facilities Committee. So Tom, would you like to give us an update on that?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We had a meeting on the 19th. It was a pretty productive meeting. We went over the capital project update. We went over a few of the considerations we wanted for our phase 2 of the project. So some of the more important items. I talked a little bit about the visual inspection. You know, annually I have to do an annual visual inspection now that the BCS is staggered. So we completed that visual inspection. I still don't have the results back yet from BOCES on what the final report was, but it really looked pretty good. We're doing fairly well in the district when it comes to the major equipment, the building envelopes. We talked about the elementary school needs, the needs we have over at the elementary school, and Gabe brought up a really good idea about we want to start discussing, what's our better options between elementary schools. The cost effectiveness, like is it more cost effective to run boat schools? Is it more cost effective for the Highland Falls or the Fort Montgomery? We want to get as much info as we can to come up with the best bargain for elementary schools. So and that took us to the end of that meeting. I'm looking to schedule another meeting early January. I want to try to keep scheduling now to keep us on this roll. And that's all.
And Ann, if I could just add to that.
I have a question for Tom.
Go ahead, Gus. Or go ahead, Ned.
Go ahead, Frank.
No, Ned, you can go ahead. I was just going to go through some of the stuff.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay. Tom,
yes.
What's the status of all those trucks and employees of the pipeline entity that's parking over on Fickens Field parking lot?
We're still,
from the standpoint of us having be included in their insurance.
Oh yeah, yes, sir. We've been in contact with the company, and we're still, I don't want to say negotiating. We're still working back and forth to get the certificate of liability. So
I just
definitely working on that.
Yeah, Ned, because I had requested the certificate of insurance from. I know that, and I requested a certificate of insurance, and they said we have to have a contract in place, and I've been working with Margot with that. So I have to reach back out to Margot again tomorrow because I sent quite a few emails to her with some information.
You might say to Peerless that unless they provide the insurance pending a contract for them to remove the vehicles, people are coming in and out of there, including their employees and the big trucks. We are fortunate that we haven't had anything, but it only takes one. And you get run over by a truck, you know what the magnitude of the loss is.
Okay, I got that.
And again, I just wanted to add.
Go ahead, Dr. Sheboy.
I'm sorry, it's like shift ashore a little bit. So,
thank you.
I just wanted to just spend a couple minutes. I had put in the board's notes under the committee, which is the nice thing about board docs, is I can put a document under the committee reports too. Just some of the ideas. We had talked about a lot of these things at the facilities committee, but I had gone back and forth with John Sokol and Scott Duell from BCA just about, what could we do, as far as additional work based on the fact that we are currently under budget and anticipate coming in a real good spot as far as the work. And we had talked about, the exterior ADA ramp, which we had been putting on hold. We refer to that as SC1. That's that back ADA access concrete going back and forth. So that is in the scope of the work that hopefully we'll be able to get done. A new elevator lift on the second floor to take one from the A wing to the athletic wing on the second floor to replace that stair climber thing that seems to be not always functional, and certainly not functional from a user's perspective. You have to get somebody to run it. Doing the auditorium lighting that we did not do because of the abatement. So we own the lights, and the lights we have, but we need to have those installed. And in order to have them installed, we have to do the abatement. So including that, and then some additional things that we will be able to do with these monies, such as replacing the gymnasium floor. Now that gymnasium floor, we were lucky the last time that we got it sanded down. Nobody thought we had an additional sanding on it. Even we heard from longtime coaches who said there's no way they're going to get a sand on this. And we were able to work with Matusik, and they did sand that floor. They refinished that floor. But absent another project in the very near future, when that floor fails, unless it's a new floor, we will not be able to get another sand on that floor. And what we're finding is, even as we're doing the replacements and the repairs, and Tom can speak to this more certainly than I, but the wood that we had even just a couple of years ago when we had a leak by the one sideline, you can't get some of that wood anymore, or the way the wood is designed. So the recommendation would be that we would replace the gymnasium floor. And unlike what we have now, which is volleyball stanchions that go through the floor into the ceiling on the first floor, and there's a concrete support there, we would install, in addition, the volleyball supports and netting that would come down from the ceiling like a basketball hoop would. So just some of those things. They had also included, because we asked them for it, some art room renovations. It doesn't seem like we would be able to do that. Also painting the exterior of the high school. I mean, by the time they gave us a price that's nearly $1 million for all the work. Obviously, that's not something that we would be able to do. Even if that was the only thing we wanted to do, it'd be beyond the scope of the work that we have. But those other items, when you're able to do a project and get additional things out of it, like all of the alts that we added, that means that the project was managed well. So I'll give Denise certainly a lot of credit for that, and the companies bid well. We did not incur, other than some site work and some change orders for electric, a lot of change orders, which is usually some of those things that absorb costs real quick. The rock removal, obviously, some abatement, but other than that, Denise managed this project from a fiscal perspective, and that's what's enabling us to do additional work. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Now, Frank, can I ask you, what are the steps for that? So you obviously, all the things you listed and have just discussed with us, those, is there any sort of approval that's needed to get those done? So how does that work?
Yeah. So what the board has on the agenda tonight to approve just some additional monies through BCA for some of the design work. They did roll in some of the design work that was already done, so they're discounting those types of things that were already designed. But that's the first step. Second thing would be, once that's done, to have them actually do this design and proposal that would be submitted to SED. Hopefully, if we think about a timeline, real tight timeline, early January. Currently, we're on a 6 to 8 week, and I think that's the most recent thing. Denise is nodding. Yeah, 6 to 8 week turnaround at facilities planning for project approvals. Some of this work has already been approved, so we're hoping that would be expedited even more. So that would take us out to bidding in early March. If we bid in early March and we award bids in late March, then we would be on a bid cycle for summertime to get this work done summertime.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Does
some of the
anyone-
longer, I'm sorry.
So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the board doesn't have any questions tonight so we can move forward and start doing these next steps if we can. Does anyone have any questions on it? The list looks like very smart things to do within our budget that are needed within the high school that will support and affect all the students, which I like, and it keeps us within our realm. We're not going outside of things that weren't approved or things like that. So smart list they put together. So I see that Gus and I think Aaron, you had a question? No? Okay, Gus, you had a question?
Well,
I have.
Okay. You guys go ahead first. I'm crunching some numbers and then I can speak.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on it? Okay.
I have.
Go ahead, Gus. You need
Frank,
more
what
time,
is
Gus?
the?
Oh, sorry, Ned. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gus. You were first.
Okay.
If you have.
Are we talking about all the items from one to 5, and then also the items 6 and 7, or just the items from 1 to 5?
1 through 6, Gus.
1 through 6.
Yeah.
All right. So that includes the painting of the exterior of the school?
No, I'm sorry.
No.
There's 2 6s, Gus.
Oh, I
There's
see.
2. Yeah, there's all the items in the top, number 1 through 6.
Right.
That's all we can afford to do.
Okay, and we're gonna we'll get at least 75% or 73% back on that, or?
Well, so the parts of the project that would be aidable, we would get aid on. Obviously, site work, we're not going to get any more aid on. So we've already expanded our ability to get aid on any additional site work. Even with this work, the district would be meeting what we said we were going to be able to do when we put out this $23.4 million project referendum, was do this work, and this work having no additional impact on the taxpayer because we had debt falling off. We do need to close out the first, I'll call it the first phase, because the first financial phase, and as soon as possible. But even with, if we're delayed a couple of weeks or a couple of months on that, we should still be able to meet those obligations.
Okay, and in terms of items number 7 or 6 and 7 on the bottom, that's something way in the future.
Those are not something that can be absorbed in the cost of this project.
Okay, all right, without incurring additional
Gus,
problems with the.
Gus, will you identify what 6 and 7 are you referring to?
Yep. Painting the exterior of the high school, Ned, and art room renovations.
All right.
And Gus, short answer to your question, we could not do those because they would exceed the authorization of the voters on October 17th of 17.
Okay, so we would have to go back to the voters in the future to get authorization for that, assuming that we have money, some seed money for that.
Anybody that would spend $860,000 to paint the exterior of the building should be committed.
I don't need to be like, yeah, we don't have to
does not provide any benefit for academics. When you're finished, I'd like to make a couple of inquiries and comments.
So Gus, basically, we wouldn't, even if we said we weren't going to do anything else and we were going to do those, we did all the outside work that we possibly can, that we're going to get aid on. So those aren't really options at this time, not to even mention the cost of them.
Right, okay, all right, that's understandable.
Yeah, we also could probably do the building in a different fashion. If we wanted to paint the building, there's probably other ways to skin that proverbial cat. So
yeah,
okay, that's fine.
Okay, Ned, you had a few questions?
Yeah, Frank, the reference to the light project in the auditorium, there were some bars that had to be removed.
No, it's not. It's not bars, Ned. It's actually on the girders. There's fireproofing in the auditorium. Obviously, you would expect that in an auditorium. That fireproofing is hot, meaning it has asbestos. Right now, it's not friable, I think is the word, right, Tom? It's not airborne.
Right.
Correct. It's not.
Yeah, right.
It's not. Friable.
Right. It is not friable. It is encapsulated because it's part of the insulation. In order for them to use the clips to put the lights on, they have to get through that fireproofing, and that would expose the asbestos. Therefore, in order to do that light project, they have to do the abatement. We've already purchased the lights, and if we don't do the lights now, we would have lights that would sit around, my guess is, for a long time and not be used. And then by the time we'd want to use them, they probably would be certainly not state of the art like they are now.
Right. What is the price for that project?
Yeah, so what we had received originally was about 169. In fact, the board had actually passed the change order to have it done, $169,000. But then when the company that was going to do it found out that they could not do it on first shift, they said that it would be an additional $50,000. And at that point, I said, I'm not taking that back to the board. We'll roll that into the last part of this project. So we believe that the installation of those lights would be about $25,000 to $30,000, and the abatement, if we bid it out as opposed to being literally our backs up against the wall, would come in cheaper than $169,000 that the electrical contractor was trying to work with their supplier to get.
Is it viable to install the new, for lack of a better word, bars and leave the other ones in place?
Yeah, they looked at multiple ways of trying to install them, but these are actually mounted to those girders.
Okay.
Yep.
The ADA rear entrance to the school, I believe that anticipated cost would be at least approximately $350,000.
Yes, and that's pretty close to what it was when it was originally proposed as an adult almost 2 years ago. But yes, it's all concrete. It's switched. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I'm saying it's all concrete, meeting ADA grade requirements and railings because of the switchback nature of it. The excavation. The concrete is not cheap, as anybody can attest. You can't do that with asphalt. The railings are required because it's ADA. So that again is right in line with where it was as part of the alt package that we did not choose when we first awarded the bids in February of, seems like years ago, but I want to say February of 19. So yeah.
Can't persons who need that type of access come in from the front, from the main entrance?
Yes, they can.
It seems to me, for the number of persons that it would serve, the expenditure of $350,000 raises serious questions in my mind. I would rather reserve some of these monies of important dealing with health issues, HVAC, and things of that nature, merely to expend the money because it's there. I don't see its broad benefit to a significant number of persons, particularly since we can bring them in through the front. Where would, if that were built and come in through the rear, the east side of the building, where would the person be upon entering the rear?
Just behind the lobby in that stairwell area, just behind right where the greeter's desk is. And this is something that we currently an individual who's in the back of the building, if they're in the back of the building, they have to go all the way around to the front of the building.
Yes.
To get in the building. And that's, if the goal of the ADA is merely to provide minimal access, well, for years, we met minimal access. This is just an opportunity that I know the board was looking at very seriously between access to the field, but it's more access to the entire facility, not just, the front door. So in an emergency, if you've got somebody who's in the back of the building and they need to get in the building for whatever reason, they do have to traverse around the entire building to get there, one way or the other, either going, down to the field and up through the lift system to the front or around the parking areas.
Okay, Dr. Sheboy
I
and Ned, I know that I want Faith to talk, but I just want everyone on the board, I want to friendly remind everyone, we already approved this. This is something that shouldn't even be a discussion because it's an alt ad that was approved by us and the taxpayers already. Go ahead.
Doesn't mean you have to spend it.
All right, let Faith talk, please. We talked about this at length, so I don't want to spend a lot of more time on it tonight, but I want to give other board members a chance to speak on it. So go ahead, Faith.
Yeah, so I just want to point out the fact that we did have a lot of discussion about this when we were, building the priorities. And this was one piece that I was very upset about, being an alternate rather than an absolute necessary. I just want to point out that the staff park in the back part of that building. So if they are hit with any issues that cause them to have any need for a ramp, getting to the front of the building is a hardship. If a student has, an issue where they're on crutches or need to be in a wheelchair, the parents have to drop them off at that circle. Their option is not to drop them off at the bus drop off. So I think it's entirely irresponsible of us to not have that entire setup. Like I said, I was upset from the beginning that wasn't part of the absolute core part of the project. So this absolutely is necessary if we have any additional money to do it. And I'm glad that it hit number 1 and not number 6 on that list.
Hey, Gabe.
Robin, could I ask you when the drop off happened for that short period of time in the back with the students? Because that just the students getting dropped off there, did they just go in up the steps, that short rampway to that first stairwell pretty much? They didn't walk up the other one to where that where we're proposing the new entrance, correct?
Correct. And there was one student who had an issue, was dropped off in the front circle where the buses go.
Right. Obviously, if you have an issue at this time, you'd have to go to the front, right?
Correct.
So I do understand what Ned's saying in terms of the cost to the usage. Yes, to have ADA ability in the back to get somebody in is a great thing to have, but it is a very, very expensive cost to do that. I know we've had this discussion. I do think something needs to be done back there. I know it's late in the game to try and do a redesign of things, but it seems like it's an expensive cost for something that has a very, very, very low benefit in terms of the actual amount of times it's going to be used for the purpose of the design.
I also believe, and I need someone to correct me here, but Frank, wasn't there something too that handicapped and injured, someone that's injured or someone that's handicapped would also be able to use that to make it easier to get down to the field level for us rather than use the front way?
Yeah, either one of those. Yes, they certainly could use the lift system, but a lift system, remember, is operated by an individual. You have to have somebody there to operate it. Or they could use an egress in the back of the building, the ramp system to get down to the tennis courts, or again, just if you think about multiple points of access, that's really what I think we were hoping to do originally, was really boost the ADA access for the building. We upgraded every one of our toilet rooms in the building. We are looking at redoing that lift system in the second to the third floor. I know it's expensive. I know it is. And I don't know that it would be as minimally utilized because, again, we do have faculty members that have ambulation issues that it does make it difficult for them. And we have 2 handicap spots back there that don't lead to a handicap entrance, handicap accessible entrance. We've increased the number of spots at the high school from minimal to, I want to say it's 12 in the building or at the high school.
Yeah, I just want to point out again too, a large part of this project, excuse me, was bringing the school to ADA compliance with the bathrooms, those lifts, which I felt when we were designing the project was extravagant. Whereas the ramp of the building, I don't see that as extravagant, and I see that as necessary. With all the work that we've done about diversity and inclusion in the district, not having an accessibility ramp to the building from the outside is exclusionary. And I think it goes against what our mission is. And if we have the money to do it and it's part of the project and it was identified as something that we really did want to do if we had the money and we now have the money, I don't understand where the debate's coming from.
Moving on from that, Frank, what would the anticipated cost be for the replacement of the gym floor?
I'm sorry, Ned, I was muted. Yeah, it's in that the diagram. They're estimating through a bid, but approximately 125. I actually think that's probably a low figure. That with the volleyball stanchions, it'd be probably closer to 140, 150. We did a floor at the intermediate school. It's a smaller floor. But we didn't have the access of state contract for that. And that was, I want to say 115,000 in 2016. So you're probably talking that between 130 and 150 for that.
Do we know how much time passed between the last renovation or restoration of the gym floor at the high school and the corrective project that brought it up to a high quality at the present time?
I can talk to that. I don't think it was very long, Ned, but more importantly, with the leak, it damaged the floor beyond use. So so it's not just, does it last you 2 years or 5 years? We have to be ready at any time. And the problem's going to be if we ever have another leak or anything like that, like we just recently had, what it'll do is it'll put us totally out of commission for use because they won't be able to fix it.
And
So
if I
go
could
ahead,
just ask,
Frank.
I want to clarify the question that Ms. Copal was asking. Now, are you asking how old is the floor?
How long did the last one, did it take between the last sanding to this sanding needing to
Not
be
sanding,
done?
no. Full replacement of the floor.
Yeah, because again, full replacement of floor, conjecture, and I don't honestly know the answer to the question of how old, but I've heard from certain people that it's the original floor. Now, I can't imagine that personally, but a floor you're going to get 20 to 30 years on. And if this is the second floor at O'Neill, that is in alignment with what one might expect, that we're at end of life. And we know that from the sanding. If you've walked on the floor, you know those metal things that you put your volleyball stanchions in or you put your PA system in, they're all raised. And they do a nice job when they sand it to blend it in, but they're probably, I would say, 3/16 of an inch, an eighth of an inch to 3/16 of an inch higher than the actual wood flooring itself. And it makes it very difficult when we have a repair where there's a cutout like we had over the summer, fall, to do that repair because they have to take so much off that new wood to bring it down to the level. I love that they did a good job. They did a really nice job patching the floor, but the wood doesn't match. And even with the sanding, even with the shading, you can see it. They did a nice job. Matusik does great work, but and again, the short answer to the question is somewhere between $130,000, $150,000 what it would cost to replace it with the volleyball stanchions that would drop from the ceiling. So
was there recent damage to the floor from water intrusion from the roof?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Did we put in for insurance recovery for that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe we received that. Denise, is that correct?
Sorry, I get the mute off. Yes, we did.
Yep. So yeah, that was an insurance claim and the insurance picked up the cost of that repair. Yes.
So,
Thanks, Adam.
okay, go ahead, Gabe.
Real quick, man.
floor-
Frank, does
the
that
floor-
150 include painting and striping and like all the lines and everything on the floor?
Yeah, that includes usually, Gabe, that includes the full install.
Okay.
And if we were going to put those stanchion things in it, that usually includes those things too.
Yeah.
So by doing the volleyball drop downs, we would save a little bit of money on the install, but there's additional cost in FFE for doing those things.
Yeah, no, it's good price.
If the floor was damaged from the water this recent time, how much did we get approximately for the repair? And why would we not be able to get a very substantial portion of the entire replacement, since you can't, if a significant part of the floor is damaged, it damages the whole floor.
Denise, can you quickly respond to that?
Yeah, yes. Because the area wasn't that big, that was damaged. It's where the emblem was. So that's where the damage was, but I don't have the number off the top of my head, and I'm not in the financial system to pull up exactly what we received, but there was other things within that. So I can get that for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Ned, Ned, everybody, what I want to do is just go one by one and find out if everybody is okay with the list, because I'd like to be able to move forward with this and not waste a lot of time. When I say waste a lot of time, if we wait till the next meeting and then hear that SED, because I have seen on a lot of the stuff that we've been getting from, NISBA and SED, is that it is down to 6 to 8 weeks now. So I think this is a perfect time to put something in to try to get a quick turnaround so we can get some of these things done next summer and use our money wisely, as I think everyone on this board wants to do. So Aaron?
I'm good with it.
Okay. I'm going right down the list. Faith?
Yep.
You're good with the list? Okay, Gabe, are you good with the list as it stands?
I'm okay.
Okay, Gus, are you good with the list as it stands?
Go for it.
Okay, and then Ned, are you good with the list as it stands?
Yes.
Thank you. And then Ann is good with the list as it stands. So I think I've gotten everybody, so you got the go ahead.
Jimmy.
Jimmy, I don't believe is on, is he?
Okay.
No, he's not on.
All right.
Okay. So the next thing is the Diversity and Equity Committee.
Now,
and
what
I
about
was
the
gonna
other,
talk-
what about those other projects?
It's all the projects that I asked for.
No,
I'm
you said
sorry.
the list.
I meant everything on the list. I said with the list as it stands.
LIST, I thought you were saying lift, LIFT.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did everyone think I was saying lift? No, everyone else thought I was saying list.
All
So
right.
do you want to change your vote?
My vote was with regard to the lift because that's what I heard. I vote no with regard to the approximately $350,000 rear entrance.
CDA?
Is that not the lift? What lift were you talking about?
He's talking about the lift inside to get from the second floor to the gym, the A wing to the gym wing. Yeah.
Oh, so we're okay with that lift, but not the access to the building. Just want to make sure.
That is correct.
Okay.
And
All right.
also I vote no with regard to the gym floor.
Okay. So we still have enough, Frank, for you to move forward with those?
Yes, and obviously there would be bids and an awarding of bids, and the board would have a chance to weigh in on those things as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the Diversity and Equity Committee, I was going to give an update, but Faith did so much talking today that I'm going to let her do an update. She had great things to say at the meeting and the committee that she was assigned to, because I was signed in to the wrong committee. So I got to listen to Faith's committee today. So go ahead, Faith. And Frank, were you on our committee?
I was in element one.
Yeah, I don't know how I got in 4, but I was. So go ahead, Faith.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk that much.
No, it was great.
Um,
You were giving them, you and Heather and everybody. I mean, I guess I'll just kick this off. This committee is, and I know some of the administrators have already spoken to it on a different level with different things that they're working on, but it is just an absolutely thought through committee, organized. It's getting places. We're getting lots of information and great ideas. So the past couple meetings have been broken up into elements on things that that the committee as a whole decided to focus on, key things. So the one element that I happened to listen to today was the element that Faith joined, element 4, correct?
mhm.
Yes. So she could just give you an idea of some of the things that were said on that committee. Element. Erin, were you on an element today?
I wasn't. I had my food thing going today. I wasn't.
Okay, so if you just want to give an idea, just a flavor of the kind of things that they're working on in your element, Faith.
Yeah, so well, element 4, and Dr. Sheboy did embed the what do you call this protocol or policy that we're developing with these 4 elements. And element 4 is specific to addressing student engagement through staff development and removing barriers to promote opportunities for all students within all programs in the district. And we spent a lot of time talking specifically about the 8th grade students and the classes that they take at the high school level and how better to reach more students in the 8th grade. We really kind of talked about the sense that there are students who don't at all feel like they qualify for that. So they don't really put themselves out there for that. The parents aren't really aware of that, or maybe they just don't have the sense that their student would. And you have other parents that are very, very vocal and get their kids enrolled in that, and they make sure their kids are enrolled in it. And the kids don't always have much voice in terms of what it is that they want, in terms of planning for their education. They just sort of, default to what their parents say, what the school says, or what have you. So we had a lot of conversation about how best to develop that program in a way using kids in the high school from the intermediate school that can talk to kids at the intermediate school level about, the benefits of taking the higher level classes. There's just a lot of good conversation about how to reach more of those students. That it started out being the Sweet 16, and that number has grown. It's definitely gotten bigger, but I think it probably could get bigger still, and maybe in a way that's more inclusive, even at the intermediate school building. So lots of conversations about that. That's only one element. The plan is very, very large, and there's a lot that's going on. But I want to say this work group itself, it's got to be the biggest work group that the district has ever had. There are so many staff that are involved there. Every single person who's at the table is fully invested, has taken this on in such a large way. And I have to say, myself included, I've missed a lot of meetings just based on work and craziness and all that kind of stuff. There's so much outreach and there's so much resource that gets put out. So even if you miss a meeting, you're able to have access to that information. I've also taken so many of the courses, like at the NYSBA conference, about equity and inclusion and all those kinds of things. It's this topic that's so relevant to the time right now. And immersing yourself in this really, it sort of is life-changing. It's really eye-opening. And it really has an impact on so many different areas of your life, and you see it so much more clearly. And I think that many members of the group feel the same way. And I think that's why they're so passionate about recognizing it, addressing it, and making sure that it's something that they're very, very, very centered on. So I feel just privileged to be a part of the group, and a part of a little bit of a conversation and making some change in our district. And I think some big change is definitely going to happen because of this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Faith said. It's invigorating, it's enlightening. It's just a very simple, quick thing today is one of the teachers, I won't put anybody on the spot, one of the teachers in element 4 today said, oh, well, I teach this AP class at the high school, and I'm not going to say, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but all of a sudden, Heather and other teachers said, wow, and she said it's made up of many different levels of students. So why couldn't we do something like this down at the intermediate school or something at the level? So, but who would have ever stopped and thought for 2 seconds? Because you can't, because we're going in 500 miles an hour. So being able to get all these different ideas on a call from all different people at all different levels, it just is so beneficial.
Yeah. And you just reminded me of something else too. In that same kind of vein, when we all came back together, it was mentioned that a lot of times what's going on at the high school, people at the intermediate school aren't aware, or the Fort school isn't aware of what's going on in this building. So we talked about information sharing, so that if there's something that's going on at the high school, and there's a teacher who taught a kid that's involved in that, like, hey, I might want to participate in that, or I might want to go see that, or watch this student, or telling a child in the Fort school, like, oh, I'm going to go and watch your brother play baseball today, or whatever it is, like, just to continue that sense of community, and how excited, how it was when you were a kid and you'd go to the grocery store and your teacher was in there. It was like celebrity. So when they see you through your entire career in the school system, it's really empowering, and it really makes a student feel really good. But there's somewhat of a disconnect. They talked about it, like feeling like islands in each building, that each building sort of operates on its own. So we talked about how to build some bridges between those islands.
So it's very good. So thank you for that update, and we'll have many more updates on it, because it's an exciting committee.
And could I just add one thing to that?
Sure.
Is just, again, the board, you do have that in your notes under this, as
Yes.
Faith had mentioned. We do have representatives from the facilities committee who next business meeting, the January 7th meeting, will be presenting a little bit and answering any questions that the board may have on this draft plan, because the goal would be to have the board adopt this plan and basically give the elements the weight of policy. They're not policy, obviously, but there's policies that govern some of the elements, but would give it the weight and the support of the entire board and the entire district, and just create protocols that create opportunities for our children. So that is the ultimate goal of this committee.
Yeah, and
Thank
it really
you.
is
I forgot to
defining
mention that.
culture. It really is. It's defining a culture within our school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The OXPA.
Aaron took that from me last night. Thank you.
That's me. I'm just pulling my note up. Excuse me. So I attended the virtual OXPA meeting last night. They had really an overwhelming amount of information and a lot of great conversation. So many different topics. I don't know if you guys heard of her, Robbie Green. She's the director of the Mid-Hudson School Study Council. She spoke. They do a lot of great work on identifying gaps and resources that districts are facing, and how they can kind of help fill them in, so to speak. She talked a lot about the problem with teacher shortages and how that's being addressed. They're also working with colleges to ensure that students are still on track to graduate in the spring, so they'll be able to be hired by districts when they graduate. And many other schools are still accepting student teachers despite the different learning experience, which was a big challenge because of the number of people allowed in the classrooms with the available square footage each school had. But a lot of schools were still really working with the colleges and getting those student teachers in the classrooms. They're also expecting a lot of vacancies in the future, administrative vacancies. So they're hosting classes through SUNY New Paltz for different cohorts of current students to get their admin degrees. And they're doing it at a bunch of different locations in the area. So they don't have to travel weeknights all the way up to New Paltz to get these classes done. Brian Hessler also spoke from NISBA about the budgetary challenges that the legislator is facing with all the deficits going on in the state, and how we're all kind of hoping for a federal miracle with a stimulus package that's going to help the districts. Another thing, one more thing, Dr. Badia, I hope I said that right, Frank. Dr. Badia from Newburgh School District. He was named Superintendent of the Year. He was the first superintendent from Orange County to be named that. Still second to Frank in my opinion, but that's just me. But congratulations to Dr. Badia. And it was a wealth of information, and it was great going. And I hope I get the chance to attend one of those again.
Thank
that's
you.
So
Erin.
all of you know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, the next one is the athletic liaison, and basically we know athletics are on hold right now, unfortunately. Mrs. Crowe did receive and distribute to the coaches and to the administration the new updated again, the Section 9 COVID-19 contest guidelines, along with all the other materials, and it's quite detailed. She said she'll be working with our new athletic trainer to find the best way to meet all of the requirements, depending on when we get to start athletics again, and they meet very often, and she'll be sure to keep us all updated. Obviously, you know, Dr. Sheboy and Mrs. Crowe and Mr. McElduff and Mrs. Brand will also be very much involved in the decisions on when athletics starts at their particular levels. So did I miss anything, Frank, on that?
No, just that the OCIA has delayed the start of
Winter sports. Thank you.
Yep.
None of it's none of it is by school district. So just so everybody understands that we're following the guidelines. And when it gets closer, it's gonna, if we thought it was hard to open schools and follow all the guidelines, this is gonna be a huge challenge to be able to meet all these guidelines and start athletics, unless something lifts a little bit. There's a lot of guidelines. So the next thing is federal government funding. Our meeting, our FLISA meeting, our spring meeting, everything is going to be virtual again. They have been asking for help and support from their contacts of letters to go to congressmen. I think Frank has, I certainly have been answering and submitting the letters on our behalf to ask for support for our impact aid. And the state funding, going right into state funding. I know that we will be meeting again with our state advocates right after everybody's sworn in again. Am I correct, Frank?
That is correct.
Yes. And really hit the ground running there again. And hopefully by then they'll have an idea if anything at all is going to change. We're all keeping our fingers crossed as I am sorry for this coughing. As Erin has mentioned, we're all keeping our fingers crossed as some sort of aid package coming out, because if not, I just don't know how we're going to do all this. As for local government liaison, I'm not aware of anything that we have right now. Are you, Frank? Do you?
Not as far as liaison, just letting the board know that Mayor D'Onofrio is doing a, use the word town hall. I don't know if that's the right word he would use, but just something, overview of what's going on in the village. I believe that County Executive Newhouse will be there, Commissioner of Health Galman will be there, and I'm just going to be there briefly to just highlight where we are with the schools, and just to encourage people to keep doing what they're supposed to do so that we can get back to school. We are seeing a rise in cases of COVID, and it is frightening. So, yeah.
Thank you. Denise, is there anything new on the tax cert liaison? I know you had said you were there was something that was going to be coming out on that in the near future.
I met with the committee, and we're still in a holding pattern. There's paperwork going back between the town and Key Bank. That's one that's the discussions right now. So we're still waiting for more information to get back to the town that they're requesting from Key Bank because of the sale of it. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing from the West Point Community Council. And then Frank, do you have anything on community engagement?
No, and one of the interesting things to my conversations on MPPR with the principals, that this is something that is very difficult for us to all get our hands around, because we've been working so hard to bring community into our schools and to connect directly with our families. And you can't have family fun night during a pandemic. It's hard to do donuts with dads or games with the guys. during a pandemic, but I know the principals are really working hard to try to keep those elements, and whether it's through Dojo or whether it's through, emails and messaging, and Mike with his little chicken costume. I know it's Olaf, but to me it looked like a chicken. We are trying really hard to just maintain that element of community engagement. We don't want to lose our families, and we don't want them to think that we've forgotten about them just because we can't be together physically. So other than that, I don't really have a whole lot on community engagement.
Thank you very much. And thank you for still staying focused on it to the extent of which that we can, which is not much, but thank you. Okay, can I turn it over to you now, Denise?
You sure can. Consent agenda. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, number 2 to 22.
I have some questions with regard.
Hold on, Ned. We need to get a motion in a second.
Motion.
Go ahead.
Second.
Faith is the motion.
Second.
Second, Aaron. Okay, Ned, go ahead.
I spoke with Denise, and she was very helpful this afternoon with regard to the transportation. I expressed to her and to Frank a concern that as of now, our regular routes for our schools local do not have a provision with regard to if we don't utilize the transportation, we don't pay, or we substantially reduce the amount of our obligation. And Denise pointed out to me that this is not a vote on the contract, but correct me if my wording, Denise, on this, it is for filing of the necessary routes with the state to meet a timeline.
Correct.
I think it's absolutely essential before we extend our contracts with the provider that we have such a provision that has been talked about before, specifically that if we're still in a pandemic or some other unfortunate event where we do not utilize the transportation, that we're not spending money for transportation, which we're not needed, and which we will not be reimbursed for by the state.
Okay, Ned, I need to interrupt you, okay? Because this isn't something that we talk about in a public session. This is about a contract negotiation that should be discussed in executive with our counsel. So I know you've voiced your opinion on this in the past. So it's something that we just can't, we can't talk about right now in public because it's pertaining to contract discussions.
I disagree with you.
Okay, hold on then. Hold on. Julie, can you please advise us?
So, Ned, you're right conceptually that in an ordinary time, it would be a public conversation about a provision you would want to see in a public contract that is going to move forward. But there are certain specific circumstances that are in play right now that there are certain things that if were said out loud right now could compromise our position in what I believe is a forthcoming negotiations on just such a provision. So that was the concern of me, if anything that was a strategy were to come out in open meeting, not the concept of wanting a certain provision in a contract, but if there were any substantive conversation about what that might look like
in a negotiation strategy context.
But I don't think this goes to specifics. I think it's a policy with regard to not obligating.
Okay, we got, Ned, I don't really want to spend a lot more time on it. We already got direction from our attorney. I don't know, rest of the board members, by show of hands, do you want to discuss what Ned is discussing anymore? Or do you want to wait and do it in executive with our attorney? Can you guys let me know? Thank you.
I'm gonna go with
Dave?
your recommendation.
That's,
Okay.
this discussion is not subject to a vote of board members. I want to just bring up one other item that should be addressed in our discussion with council, and that is with regard to us providing for students going to private school beyond the 15-mile limit. It needs to be addressed.
That would be advice of legal counsel. I would need to know circumstances that I don't know about in order to advise on the permissibility, et cetera. So if anybody wants to add that as a reason, if it's not already on the agenda for executive session to seek advice from legal counsel, it should be added.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Faith.
I have a question just on the calendar, and Frank, forgive me because we may have talked about it and I can't remember. But on the student calendar, just the academic calendar for the year, I'm struggling to find what the change is. I don't remember what that conversation was about.
Juneteenth as a holiday.
That's what it is. Okay. And then just one other question, because I know there's been some discussion in other districts about the use of snow days in the virtual environment. Have we discussed that?
We've not really discussed it here because right now it is a pilot. We have snow days built in. In the event that we should have a bad winter, which I don't believe is forecasted for this year, then we would certainly want to have the option potentially to use remote days in lieu of that. Should this pilot become a permanent change, what the board may want to do is have the administration develop a calendar with more minimal days in it so that we would potentially revert to remote instruction on the in the event of an adverse weather day or emergency closing day, but maintain at least a couple in there in the event that there's a widespread power outage or internet outage, which would preclude our ability to offer instruction in those events.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that. Any other questions on the agenda items? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, unless anyone has anything else, we're ready to go into executive session. Does anyone have anything else? Go ahead, Gus.
This question is directed either towards Frank or Tom. A quick synopsis or a summary as to what's happening at the high school in terms of construction, please.
So either of us could probably speak to it as it's happening right outside of our windows. But the firework, the fire inspection, the fire alarm system upgrade is nearing completion. That's a wonderful thing. And the Debbie Crow Field has turf put on it. They're currently cutting out the numbers, the hash marks for the various yard marks. We anticipate the field will be complete probably by the end of next week. It is gorgeous. There's still some work going on for trenching and power up to the pole barn. Ned had reached out to in the past actually, as well as today, to ask about making sure that we had cores in the doors of the pole barn to make sure that it wasn't an attractive nuisance. And we have addressed that situation, or I think Tom said it will be addressed by week's end. Yeah, things are moving along, and it is a pretty sight to behold. I can't wait to have kids on those fields.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. 1 second, please. Back to my other screen. Be it resolved that the Board of Education recesses into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular individual, to discuss matters made exempt under federal law FERPA, and also to seek advice of counsel.
Motion.
The board will not be returning to open session to take action.
Motion.
Faith gave motion. Second is Aaron?
Not me, but I'll take it if you want.
No,
It was
I didn't
Gabe.
hear
It
who
was
did it. I'm
Gabe.
sorry. I'm switching between screens. Gabe, as fast as I can, but you guys are faster than me. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, and stay well and stay safe. Bye.